It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, let's talk about 30-year-olds. Bo, this is you. You're in the messy middles.
I am living this life real hard right now.
So messy middle, I pick on people in the messy middle because I've been there, done that, is that this is where life is moving so fast. You got so many things going on. You get married, you buy your first house, you're having kids, this is when you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, I feel
life
like
is hard and there's a lot of stuff pulling on you.
I've got a 2x2 box that I'm packing a lot of life into. So let's walk through, because I picked on my 20-year-olds. We just got through the 20s because they were the biggest group taking distributions from their 401k. So you would think, okay, my 30-year-olds, that's probably improving.
We're older. We are wiser. We've not, we learned in our 20s. So surely by our 30s, we figured it out. We got this money thing. We got it nailed, right?
Here's a failure. And this is why, remember I told you, compounding interest should make wealth creation extremely simple. But somehow simple is not easy because there's so many distractions that are coming at people all through life.
Yep.
38% of workers who are 30 to 39 years of age are taking out distributions from their 401ks.
So this troubles me for two reasons, Brian. One, just like your cohorts in your 20s, you still have to pay federal income taxes, you still have to pay state income taxes, and you still get assessed a penalty if you're pulling money out of your retirement accounts. But not only that, you're far enough down the line, you don't have quite as much time as those 20-year-olds have to recover. And odds are, we didn't have this in the numbers, I'm betting that 30-year-olds, just because they have availability of assets more than 20s, I bet they're pulling out more than their 20-year-old cohorts.
Oh, for
just
sure.
because they have access to more.
Well, and this is a stat. We didn't even pick on our 20-year-olds about this, but I thought this was interesting. Not only do we have 38% of 30 to 39-year-olds taking money out through distributions, close to 20%, according to Fidelity, are also taking out loans on their 401ks.
Okay, so we get asked all the time questions about 401k loans. Hey, should I take advantage of this? Is this something I should? In our view, the 401k loan is really, it's like the fire extinguisher behind the glass. Like you only break the glass if there's an emergency, if there is something dire. It's not to go buy the next car or to put the pool in the backyard because it can be a devastating blow to your long-term financial wealth building.
I mean, this is the money because 20-year-olds, it's easy to have compounding growth, exponential growth. 30-year-olds, guys, this is one of the last steps you have to double-digit compounding growth, meaning your money is going to do incredible things for you. Don't shortchange, don't short-circuit your opportunities by taking distributions, taking loans. I know we're coming through a weird year, so maybe you had to do it, but just remember, bottle up that feeling of disappointment if you had to get into retirement assets so you can make sure you build the habits of saving and making sure you're not shortchanging the army of dollar bills.
That's exactly right. So we talked about, what was required to be a millionaire by 65. If you were a 20-year-old, it was $95. Well, maybe in your 20s you didn't figure it out, but you're 30 right now and you figured it out. So how much do you have to save to be a millionaire by the time that you get to 65? By our calculations, it's about $270 a month. So what does that mean? You will, over the course of your career, have saved $113,400. So you've actually doubled what the 20-year-old had to save, but that's okay because still 89% of your $1 million was from growth, was from compounding interest, was from the market, was from your army of dollar bills working for you.
Wow, just those growth levels, 95% growth for the 20-year-olds, 89% growth for those in their 30s. Guys, that's once in a lifetime opportunity. So you're probably, and I talked about this earlier, how do you determine between traditional contributions versus Roth, which are tax-free growth? But we've tried to break it up, and we have a kind of an indicator of 30%. If you take your federal tax rate, your marginal federal rate, and then your state income tax rate, it's around 30%. But we need to go deeper than that because a lot of people will hear that and be like, give me some numbers, Brian. I need to know numbers. What's the actual details?
So if you are someone who files a tax return and you file as a married filing jointly, you want to pay attention to the 24% tax bracket, and that happens at $171,050 for a married couple, or about $85,000 for a single couple, or for a single couple. That doesn't make any sense. For a single person, if you fall below those thresholds, there's a chance that Roth makes a lot of sense for you. You're in the lower tax bracket. Go ahead and take advantage of that tax-free growth.
And it's also that 89%, that's talking about value of your army of dollar bills, compounding interest. Tax-free is going to be really powerful, but you do need to be mindful as you have more success at work. There will come a threshold when you have enough success that you're in those higher tax brackets. Right. Maybe the tax-deferred growth or traditional way of saving is even better.
Yeah, what we figured is, like, if you look at the 32% bracket, it's like $326,000 for a couple, or it's $160,000 around there for a single person. If you're above that, pre-tax makes sense. Well, you may have noticed there's a big gap, right?
Yeah.
For couples, it's a gap from 170 to 320, and for single, it's from 85 to 160. It gets a little varied. It gets a little nuanced, and it depends on your unique state that you live in, your unique tax circumstances, your unique age, your unique goals, your unique account structure. Maybe a blended solution makes sense for you inside of that range, but outside of that range, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Well,
it's
hearing
easy.
those thresholds, I think there's going to be a lot of people that ought to be, if you're in your 30s, you're probably going to need to be looking at the Roth option, because a lot of opportunity there, a lot of meat on that bone, as we like to say.
Yep.
So let's talk about, I want to talk about how much should you be saving, how much should you have. Let's talk about the Money Guy way and the research we found.
So again, remember, what we laid out is if you wanted to start saving and you didn't begin until you hit 30, and your goal was to replace 60% of your pre-retirement income, right? And we're going to assume that your income just increases by 1.5% every year. How much would you need to save to have a pot of money that will last you from 65 all the way through 95? Well, if you're someone who's 30 years old, you got to be saving 15% to do that. To replace 60%, you need to be saving 15. If you wait till 35 years old, that number jumps to 19%. And if you're someone who waits till 39, you're on the cusp of the top of the hill, you got to save almost a fourth of your income, 24%, in order to replace 60% of your pre-tax income in retirement.
And we talk about Money Guy. If I was talking about Money Guy way, we always talk about 20 to 25%. I want you to be that hyper saver status. You can see 30-year-old, because compounding interest is so powerful to you, you can actually save a little less than that. But I want you to think about abundance. What can you save to actually get you even more? If you do save 20%, and you're 30 years old, you can see now you're going to have a retirement that's not 60% of your income. It's going to be 81%. Remember, in retirement, you don't have to save for retirement. You don't have to pay as much in income taxes. So that 81% that you're going to get at age 30 is going to feel like a great retirement.
Absolutely.
Same thing at 35. I think this is amazing. This shows how the math works. 19% savings rate is what's projected there, gets you 62%. That's right in line with the 20%, matching up perfectly. Same thing, 39-year-old, you're saving 24% of your income. You'll get about 49%, a little less, but this is common sense. If you waited, meaning because every one of these scenarios assumes you started at zero. So that's a 39-year-old who has zero retirement savings. It's not game over for you.
That's right.
If you start doing hyper saving status of 20 to 25%, specifically 24% in this illustration, you still have a retirement that covers half of your income. You stack Social Security on top of that, you're in a pretty good place.
That's exactly right. I'm going to say it again just for the people in the back. If you can save somewhere between 20 to 24% as a 39-year-old, you can expect to replace somewhere between 49 to 60% of your pre-retirement income. It's pretty amazing, pretty powerful.
By the way, if you want to get depressed, hang around for the 40s and 50s, assuming people didn't start, because this is what situation you'll be in if you don't use this as motivation. Because this is the sad part, and we put fidelity balances in here for 30-year-olds. You can see the average balance is $18,500. You can see the median is $46,200. Bo, that doesn't strike me as those are people that will be living in abundance at retirement.
Those are not the Money Guy mental financial mutants. So we don't want you to shoot for, oh, well, if the average is 18, I guess that's where I need to be. If the average is 46, I guess that's where I need to be. We want to give you a better number. If you are a Money Guy mutant and you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing through your 20s and through your 30s, we think that by the time you're leaving your 30s, you should have 2.6 times your annual income saved by the time you get to 40.
Yeah, for my overachievers, you're trying to get between 2.6 to 3 times your salary by the time you reach 40 years of age.
Yep.
Guys, you can do it because at that point, you've almost 2 decades of being in the workforce, saving, letting the army of dollar bills starting to build something because you are getting close to reaching that critical mass. So get to work. Make the money do the heavy lifting for you.